Warn your friends and loved ones. It's neither safe nor funny to incite the wrath and vengeance of a warren of dust bunnies. Now, I was certain I'd put my heinous crime behind me with a nervous laugh and thought my methodical spring cleaning wouldn't have an aftermath. But this was a foolish belief on my part. I should have reflected. Dust bunnies, like other sentient beings, can be well connected. I did not realize the relatives of the dust bunnies I had vacuumed would become bitterly determined and spitefully consumed with making me gnash my teeth and sorely pay for their harmless fuzzy kin I so ruthlessly cornered and betrayed. Now, this poem, entitled Revenge of the Dust Bunnies, may seem a little ridiculous because it's about everyday household dust, but how often do you actually think about the dust that sits on our floors and furniture? I know that personally, I never really thought about it. I never even really cared. I just knew that it always seems to collect, especially on my kitchen floor. But did you ever think that it could actually be affecting your lives? Well, today I'm going to tell you all about the importance of dust, and I'm going to do this by first telling you what dust is actually made out of, how it's killing us, how to win the war against dust, and finally, how it proves alien abductions to some people. First, we need to talk about what dust is actually made out of. According to Fact Sheet by Ohio State University, dust has 5 major components. The first is plants. This is just pollen released from plants. The second is disintegrated stuffing. This is from your mattresses, pillows, and furniture. The third, this is kind of gross, is animal parts. This is like human skin that has scaled off. Insect parts like from roaches, hair, and saliva. And fourth is inside contaminants. And this is smoke, cosmetic powders, laundry detergents. And fifth and finally is molds, bacteria, and viruses. So if you think about it, there are some pretty disgusting things that all just kind of clump together that make your dust. But regardless of that fact, how is it affecting your lives? Well, according to Fact Sheet as well, people spend almost 90% of their time inside, which gives dust the opportunity to harm us. Which leads to my next point of how is dust killing us? Now, dust is killing us primarily in 2 ways. The first of which is asthma. According to CNN, under CNN.com, 17 million Americans today suffer from asthma. And in 1998, 5,438 people actually died from it. And if you think about it, most of us know at least one person who has asthma, or some of us may even have it ourselves. Now, dust relates to this because dust carries dust mites, which carry allergens causing the symptoms of asthma. For those of you who don't know what dust mites look like, here's an example of them. Now, they're not this big. They're actually invisible. They are smaller than the period at the end of a sentence, but they're everywhere. They're in our mattresses especially. They're in our carpets. They're in our furniture. They're even in the clothes you're wearing right now. Now, this is kind of gross, but according to Consultant Magazine, which is a magazine for general care practitioners, in their 1996 edition, they stated that 1 gram of dust can actually hold 1,000 of these dust mites and 100,000 of their fecal pellets. Now, a gram is about the size of a large thumbtack, so your bed can hold millions of these dust mites and even more of their feces, which is causing all these problems with asthma. Now, the second way that dust is killing us is lead poisoning. According to Wall Street Journal, in their September 11th, 2002 edition, they say that this is mainly coming from houses that were painted before 1978. Now, back then, a lot of paint had lead in it still, which is now today causing all the problems from it coming off. And On Earth magazine, which is published by the National Resources Defense Council, in their winter 2003 edition, they say that people our age don't really tend to suffer from this because it's mainly children. Now, the reason for this is because children have a tendency to put their hands on things and put their hands in their mouth. And they actually stated that by the age of 6, children can consume half a cup of powder-fine dust just by sucking their thumb, which is a lot of dust if you think about it. Now, the reason why this is such an issue is because according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention at cdc.gov, low levels of exposure can lead to decreased intelligence, decreased stature and growth, and impaired hearing, which are all really serious problems, especially for little kids. An example of this, unfortunately, was done by the Wall Street Journal as well, which is the Paver family. They live in New Orleans, and they were renovating their 77-year-old house. Now, during renovation, unfortunately, their dog died from lead poisoning. When they found it out, of course, they rushed their 3 children to the hospital, and they found out all 3 of them had lead poisoning. And their oldest daughter, Elizabeth, actually ended up getting short-term memory deficit from this, and the other 2 had similar problems. So if you think about it, there are some pretty serious things that dust is causing in us. But the good news is that there are really simple ways that you can win the war against dust. According to American Family Physician, which is the official journal of the American Family Physician Organization, in their 1999 edition, they stated the best way to fight dust mites is just to be clean. Clean all your bedding every 1 to 2 weeks, and you can even encase your mattresses and pillows with covers. And then Wall Street Journal gave even easier ways to fight lead poisoning. Now, the best way is just not to wear your shoes inside the house so you don't track in the dust. Eat a lot of foods with iron and calcium, like green foods. Clean all your surfaces weekly. And finally, just wash your hands more often. Now, those are all really simple ways that you can effectively fight this war against dust. Well, now that hopefully you see dust as being a little bit more important than you ever saw it as before, now we need to go to a kind of different level, and that is alien abductions. Now, this whole story started in 1997 when Dr. William C. Levengood of Pinlato Biophysics Laboratory of Michigan, he apparently discovered glassy particles in the dust of abductees' houses. Now, these particles are not found anywhere else, only in their houses, supposedly. According to him, this entire story started one day when a woman, she had woken up in the middle of the night and found a beam of light by her bed. Now, she stuck her arm in the light and let it shimmer in her arm. And the next morning when she woke up, she called Dr. Levengood. And he came to her house, and he picked up whitish dust that was found on the floor near where that beam of light had been. And when he tested it, he found these glassy particles. Just so you can know what they look like and get an idea, here's an example of one. Okay. They come in all different shapes and sizes, and they range from 1/1000th of a millimeter on up. Now, a millimeter is about the size of the width of a paperclip wire, so these are extremely small, and you're never going to be able to see them, but there they are. And if you want to look up them more, you can find them under abduct.com. And you can even have Dr. William C. Levengood come to your house and test your dust to see if you have aliens, which is cool for some people. So in conclusion, if you remember in the beginning, I told you the poem called Revenge of the Dust Bunnies. Well, at the end of this poem, the author actually says, "I've learned my lesson. My home is now a haven for dust bunnies. All they're after is a place where they won't be hunted by brooms and dustpans or have to live in fear, hiding under the refrigerator until house cleaning is finished and the coast is clear. So, if my house is messy, you now know the cautionary tale and reason. And I'd advise everyone to think carefully before declaring open season on the dust bunnies and their own homes." Well, personally, I know that after I learned about what dust was actually made out of, how it's killing us, how we can easily fight the war against it, and even its associations with alien abductions, I know that I'm going to try to be a little bit more aware of what's around us, and hopefully all of us can take a lesson from that, and just be aware of what's around us, even in this room. Thank you.